gentlemen, welcome to the main event. Let's get ready to rumble!
And that's right, everybody. Welcome back once again to another edition of the Best Seat in the House podcast. As always, I'm your host, Rob Cramer, alongside my co-host, Daniel Bobo Curlin. And Dan, how you doing today, buddy?
Who's doing so well? The Mets just blew out in the first game. That I somehow it's a miracle by TV Masters survived after survived the whole playoff series with the Rangers. How do we look non-existent in Game 7? Like all of a sudden, it's like there was like 4 games we looked horrible, and Game 7 just I don't get it. We just couldn't score a single shit. Like I just feel like Igor Shesterkin is having Henrik Lundqvist disease. No one's scoring anything for him.
Yeah, I mean, we might as well just start off there, and we'll touch on it right now, and we'll come back to it at the end. But yeah, that series with the Devils was just absolutely terrible. The Rangers put themselves up 2-0, blow that lead 2-2, and then they had everything right in front of them and still managed to blow it. They won Game 6 at the Garden to force Game 7 and just couldn't get it done. They lost Game 7 4-0 in New Jersey. Just a terrible, terrible series, a terrible taste in your mouth from that series. Just everything about it. Just as bad as it gets. And you know what? Actually, we'll finish up the show tonight with this because, Dan, as me and you talked about this, last week's guest, Eastside Dave, which, by the way, how fun was it having Eastside Dave on the show last week? Just great, right?
Oh my god, I really enjoyed having Eastside Dave. That was just a fun episode. That every time I'm around Eastside Dave, it just takes me back to the memories of the Eastside Dave show. It just and then even speaking of the Eastside Dave, if the Rangers would have won Game 7, I was gonna attempt to contact Lucy to see if I could talk her into. And I don't know if this is a guarantee this would have worked out, but I was gonna try to talk her into playing the Rangers victory song on the flute to use for us to use in this episode of the show if the Rangers would have won Game 7.
Oh my God, that's a great idea, man. That would have been awesome.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, that
yeah,
didn't work out.
yeah. Unfortunately, that didn't work out. But I just when I was going into Game 7, I just was trying to. I was just typing in my little notes and stuff that maybe I might want to go to on the show, and I figured, "Hey, you know what? Maybe the Rangers win. Maybe I should contact one of my fellow East Side Dave cast members to see. I figured that'd be pretty neat seeing a cover of the Rangers victory song on the flute. Let me contact I said if the Rangers win, I gotta maybe contact a certain flute player I know. But that didn't work out, and unfortunately the Rangers didn't win. And I also I gotta say one thing about the crowd at the Prudential Center. How the heck did all of a sudden Devils fans showed up? Because last I checked, it seems the Devils are probably normally beg people to go to their games. So they get like they freaking told their tickets dirt cheap, and all of a sudden it's like when I'm checking because I want as a Rangers fan, I badly wanted to make sure I get to at least one game every year, and unfortunately I didn't get chance to do that. There were a couple of things I had to take care of. Had to help. There was some vet bills with Mr. Malone again. Unfortunately, and there was some household repairs I helped pay with that took a while to accumulate. even enough to maybe potentially get 2 tickets so I could bring you. But I was looking at ticket prices up until the last possible minute I could leave my as late as it could be to leave my house and still get there in time. And the prices never went down to what I hoped for. And I'm saying, what the heck is with these ticket prices? I don't recall Devils fans rushing to get tickets. If anything, I
Yeah,
think it
well,
was because the one time I think it was because of the Rangers. I think that was the one time they knew they could sell tickets. That's why they were charging that much.
that's true too. But also, one thing about Devils fans is that they're all front runners. Anybody that's a Devils fan, they don't support the Devils when you know they're having a crappy season like they did last year or anything like that. But now the Devils are having a good year. Now they show up. Although they all seem pretty quiet in games 1 or 2. But there is one thing I did want to point out about this series before we move on. Um, this is what I wanted to point out because this moment right here was the changing moment in the series. Timo Meyer crashing into uh, Igor Shesterkin in the Rangers, net, obviously, not called for goaltender interference. But then when Shesterkin was trying to get him off his leg because Timo Meyer was literally laying there on top of his leg, holding onto it, he gets called for roughing. The Rangers at this point in the game, in game 3, are up 1-0, and they give the Devils that bullshit, absolute bullshit roughing power play that was called on Shesterkin. They tie the game, and the series was never the same again after that. Now, I don't blame that play on game 4, game 5, and game 7. And to be honest, other than this situation right here, I think the series was pretty cleanly officiated. But Dan, let's be honest here. This was the changing moment in the series. This is what everybody has to point to when it comes to because how did they hit Shesterkin with a roughing call because of this? And there was no goaltender interference. I don't get it.
Uh, I don't get it either. The but I was yelling out, "Fuck the zebras! Fuck the zebras!" That's what I was yelling out at home. At home, all right. You hear me yell that out. You also hear me yell out when a referee makes a bad call, very loudly. Bullshit! Bullshit! I'll yell that out a lot too. So I was livid. Like people could tell when during especially during playoff time, I might get extra loud. I think Mr. Malunigan may have been a little bit barking when he's hearing me that loud. Like he thought I was barking at him or something. Because if you're loud in front of your dog, sometimes they think you're barking at them. Like, oh, you're barking at me? I'll bark at you again, even louder.
Yeah, that is true. That is definitely true. And yeah, man. I mean, it just sucks that it had to go down like that. And then I I don't know if you caught this, but on breakup day, which was earlier today, I believe they were doing that. They were talking to Gerard Gallant, and look, I do not think that Gerard Gallant should be fired. I am happy with Gallant. I think he did as good a job as he could, and it's just not his fault that guys like Artemi Panarin and Mika Zibanejad didn't perform in this series. It's not his fault, you know. Um, so I don't think that Gallant should be fired, but he got really bent out of shape at the press conference, his final press conference of this season, when um, a the reporters asked the question that had to be asked. I mean, they asked, how do you feel about your job security? Do you feel like it would be justified if you got fired or and look, when you're a coach in New York, you're always on the hot seat. I don't care who you are. Joe Torre won 4 World Series championships and got fired just a few years later. Anybody can get fired in this city, Dan, right? So I think that Gerard Gallant getting his nose out of joint about this line of questioning was a little concerning to me, right? Did you see any of that?
Yeah, it just looked a little concerned. I saw some clips of it, like a little later on. I think in between games, I was looking at some stuff on my computer because I had to have this phone charging to make sure he was ready for the show. But yeah, that was a little concern. It's like I I just have a bad feeling it's going to be either 50-50. Either he's going to be fired or the GM is going to be fired. One of those two is going to be fired.
Well, I mean, I understand what you're thinking there, but I don't think Chris Drury's going anywhere because he's like the handpicked guy from Dolan right now. So I don't really see Drury going anywhere. Um, but you never know about Gallant. I think he should stay, but I mean, if he gets bad exit interviews, you really never know what could happen. I don't know why the players would have much of an issue with him, but you never know. I mean, let's think back to just 10 years ago, Dan, when the Rangers had just gone to the conference final the year before and lost to the Devils, just like this year, where they went to the conference final last year and lost also in 6 games to Tampa Bay. This year, they come back, losing the first round. That year, under Tortorella, they came back, won the first round, and then lost in the second round to the Bruins. So, if John and John Tortorella, after that and those bad exit interviews, and after that exit from the playoffs, got fired right after that. And I think that John Tortorella had a much bigger beef of him getting fired at that time than Gerard Gallant would, because let's face it, as much as everybody liked that Rangers team, they weren't the front runner cup team. And I'm not saying this Rangers team was a front runner either, but with a roster like this and what they did last year combined with everything, you cannot go down in the first round of the Devils. It's unacceptable. And to sit here like Gallant did and not understand why people would be talking about you losing your job, not that you should, but that the question would come up, it just seems like it's a very not understanding the situation well for Gerard,
Yeah, exactly. That's what it felt like, and I can tell you, it does feel horrible the fact that I was not expecting to be losing the first round. Look, see this? Clean shaven. That,
Yeah, it's
that's
true.
just shocking. That's shocking. I did not expect that. I did not expect after the game I'd be pulling out my razor and using my razor that early. I didn't expect to be
Yeah,
using my razor until June.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that's kind of what we all did, man. So, really, really unfortunate, um, circumstances now for the Rangers and everything. It sucks they lost. It sucks now they have so many decisions to make. One thing, because I think we're not going to spend too much time on the Rangers off the bat here, but one thing really sticks out in my head here. The two biggest culprits of this series were Zibanejad and Panarin. And I don't want to kill Zibanejad because I know he does a lot more than just scoring goals. And he only scored 1 this round. So, you still have to tip your cap to Zibanejad. He still played great defense. He still did all the little things. He was still, winning faceoffs. So you got to give it to Zibanejad there. He's a big penalty killer and everything. Um, Panarin, though, how do you justify this guy's $11 million salary when he went out there and did nothing? Artemi Panarin was absolutely invisible after game 1 in this series. He had 2 assists in that first game and did nothing after that. It was an absolute joke. And at one point in the series, they had switched up the power play unit where they had Zibanejad as the bumper and Panarin in the left circle. Panarin was getting these wide open looks and not even hitting the net. It was infuriating. Dan, first impression right now after this series, the wounds are still fresh. What do you think? Is Artemi Panarin back here next year? Or a better question, do you want him back here next year?
I feel he's better than he's not. It's 50-50. I think there were so many chances that they missed. They should have been shooting at the goal a lot more than they did during that series. They
Yep.
they needed to make a Schmidt, whatever, I don't know if I pronounced his last name right. They needed to make him work. They didn't shoot enough. They had so many chances. They did not shoot the puck.
You're right. And you're right. I mean, how many times did the Rangers get 30 shots on goal against this kid, Akira Schmidt? You know, look, I don't want to take anything away from the kid. He played really, really well, but not as well as his numbers indicate because the Rangers did not test him enough. Very disappointed in how the Rangers attempted to break Akira Schmidt because they showed in Game 6 at the Garden that they could do it. You know, they scored 5 goals against the kid. He got pulled. But then they went right back to the same thing. And you do have to give credit to the Devils because the Devils did a great job of clogging up that neutral zone, not letting the Rangers get through. And even when the Rangers did find the opportunity to have an offensive possession for a sustained period of time in the Devils zone, the passing lanes were all clogged up. The shooting lanes were all clogged up. So the Devils really did old school New Jersey Devil Martin Brodeur era defense there, and it worked to a T, and you have to give them credit for that. But before we move on, I do want to say I want to thank the New Jersey Devils fans for cheering Igor Shesterkin's name because Igor Shesterkin is the only New York Rangers player that deserved to have his name cheered after that garbage series that we were forced to watch. Shesterkin stood on his head every single game in that series, and the fact that the Devils scored as many goals as they did in that series is insane. Igor Shesterkin was the best player on the ice, and most of those goals the Devils scored had nothing to do with the goaltender, right, Dan? I mean, we can't take anything away from Shesterkin after that series. He played fantastic.
Yeah, that was so horrible. I mean, I I'm just saving this beer for this show. I had a beer saved that was gonna be if the Rangers had won a series, but hold on, it's gotten so bad, and with this Met game, I need to get a Stella. Hold on, I gotta go to the fridge.
All right, as Dan continues his journey to get a Stella, I don't blame him. We're sitting here too watching the second game of the doubleheader the Mets are playing in Detroit today, and they're currently down 6-1 after they blew another one in game 1 today. So you're getting me and Dan full of a lot of piss and vinegar today because, aside from our New York Knicks, who we'll get to in a second, a lot of our teams are letting us down lately. So we appreciate you sticking here with us as Bobo continues to get his Stella over there, a tribute to the great Matt Iceman. And it sounds like he completed that transaction right there. All right, you got your Stella there, buddy. There we go. There we go.
Yep, I got it. I just had to get myself a Matt Iceman special.
I feel like too when you're drinking that, you should do like the Elaine from Seinfeld and go Stella.
Next time, every time. Actually, I'm gonna do that from now on. Every time I drink a Stella, I'm gonna yell out Stella. I need to do that, but yeah, it was that bad that you had to see an opening ceremony on the show. When I open
Yes.
when I open a beer on the show, I call it an opening ceremony, as a little nod to the bassist in a rock band Bandmate, Misa. She does that at her concert. She'll chug a beer. She'll open, and when she opens the beer, she calls it the opening ceremony.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, hey, we got to see an opening ceremony right here on Best Seat in the House, right, Dan? There you go.
Yep, exactly. We got to see it, and hopefully somebody showed this to Misa and Bandmate, because I would love to one day maybe at least get to have maybe get to chat on Zoom with at least one member of Bandmate would be nice.
That would definitely be very cool. Very cool, man. But yeah, Dan,
And
before
but
we move on, yeah, I'm sorry. Continue. What are you gonna say?
yeah, and of course one thing I gotta say, do a search them on YouTube and thank me later. That's all I gotta say.
Exactly. I've I did that and I like them too. They're very good, very talented musicians, no doubt about it.
Yeah, yeah. One of these days, next time they come to New York or something, we got to see them live together.
Absolutely, man. I'd love that. So we're going to be moving on from the Rangers now, as there's really nothing else to say. The Devils won, and also too at the end of this show, look, Dan, back, we had Eastside Dave on last week, and I don't know if you haven't had a chance to check out his Patreon yet, but he's got a great new show on there where him and Rob the producer, Bobby Tamburo, they pretty much do like a Conrad Thompson style show where they walk through a bunch of the old episodes of Ron and Fez, or Davey Mack Sports Program, O&A, Special Delivery with Sam and Dave. So they're just starting this out. They just did the first episode this past week, and it was really great. So I definitely recommend everybody go check it out. But the reason why I bring it up is because one of the storylines going on in this episode, and it was the Pizza Face episode, if you remember from Ron and Fez, where Dave shoved Fez's face in the pizza. Now, one of the storylines leading up to that was that Fez was a welcher when it came to his bets, right? Where Fez wasn't paying off all these things that people thought that he was going to do. Well, Dan, I have to say, even though I know that you are a man of your word, Dave was on here last week saying that you have made all these promises and all these bets and everything, that you're going to blow yourself up and everything, and it has never come to fruition yet. Well, unfortunately, our Rangers lost, so now we know that has to that you have to pay that bet off, right? I mean, it's going to suck, but you got to pay it off.
Yeah, that's true. I somehow during that series gained the powers of Kenny McCormack. So you'll see what I mean next week.
Well, exactly, because at the end of this episode, Bobo is gonna pay off this debt. He's not a welcher; he's a man of his word. So we're gonna see Dan at the end of this episode. He's gonna pay it off. So we just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that. So now let's keep it moving on here, Dan, because I'm sure we definitely have a lot to get to today. Let's just jump right back in with our Knicks, man. What a great game yesterday. Obviously, the Heat were without Jimmy Butler, but it doesn't matter because that win felt great. We got big production out of RJ, out of Julius Randle, out of Brunson. Hartenstein had a good game off the bench, and Josh Hart continues to play with just that, his heart, this postseason ever since they've got him. You must have been pumped watching that game yesterday, right?
Oh, I was pumped. Like I literally just I was going nuts that game. That just felt like the '90s again, seeing the Knicks this deep into the playoffs. It just felt like the '90s. That was just a lot of fun getting to see that series. That was, believe me, hopefully I'll get to see that, get some bragging rights on my on one of my South Florida relatives, because I got some relatives that were born in South Florida that are Heat fans. That I would love to give them the ultimate bragging right.
Yeah, man. I mean, hey, this is first time in 10 years they've met in the playoffs. It's just the second time in the last 20 that we're locking up. So, it's always fun when the Knicks and the Heat match up. Really, really tough to believe how they blew that first game. They had a 10 to 12 point lead, and then it just evaporated. Jimmy Butler played great, and the Knicks just didn't make their shots. And then when it came down to it in game two, the Knicks bench has been a big plus this whole postseason run, but their bench really didn't do much in game two. It was really carried by their three stars, and they were able to seal this thing down and get that victory. So, game three is going to be Saturday afternoon, 3:30 in Miami. The first game down there. Um, we're going to have back-to-back games there, and then come back to the Garden for game five. So right now, Dan, how are you feeling? Do you think that Jimmy Butler is going to be back on Saturday? Do you think that Randall's fully healthy? How are you feeling so far?
I feel it's 50-50 on both fronts of that, and hopefully that goes it goes in our favor. I personally know one thing. I saw someone. I was talking about NBA Jam, and someone has showed me a link to this shirt that I got online. I kind of want to buy it. They actually have it sell a T-shirt of the NBA Jam, the menu screen. A Knicks shirt that has a picture of the menu screen. Ewing and Starks. I kind of want to
Really?
buy
That's
that.
pretty cool.
I want to buy that. That's one of my favorite video games of all time. That's just a fun video game. And as a matter of fact, I don't know if the writers of Robot Chicken would see this, but I have a great idea for a sketch for Robot Chicken, or even about Dorkly Fits, the guys that do those video game parodies on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a real hilarious one for a parody of NBA Jam. How about a little sketch where all of a sudden the whole venue catches on fire with the guy's on fire in the court, and somehow the court catches on fire in a mishap, or maybe something where a player gets hit by a broken shard to glass. That is just a Dorkly Bits. Uh, that is a sketch on Dorkly Bits. That's an animation on Dorkly Bits waiting to happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I thought of this while playing NBA Jam. By the way, I took out my Sega Genesis, played some NBA Jam.
There you go. There you go.
That's a funny one. Everyone who remembers that game would get a laugh at that one.
Oh yeah, man, no doubt about it. And yeah, that's definitely cool. Very very cool that you were playing that, and I love that idea, the shirt too.
Yeah. That is just such a cool shirt for anyone that I mean because I feel like one of the greatest basketball video games of all time came out at a time when the Knicks were having some of their best years. So I feel like it's
Yeah.
hand in hand. Like when I play that video game, I get memories of the years when the Knicks were contenders every year when I play that game. Also, sometimes I look weird at that game today with some of the hidden characters. Like, remember that cheat code that play as Bill Clinton cheat code? When I look at that
Oh.
today, sometimes I once randomly did an impression of Bill Clinton. I did not have any sexual relations with that Knicks City dancer.
I like it. I like the impression there. There we go.
but yeah, that's what I thought of. I was just laughing at. I just laugh at that. I just amazed how that was such a big deal. That cheat code. Remember that cheat code back in the day?
Oh yeah, man. I used to all those cheat codes. They don't do that in video games anymore.
Yeah. Actually, I'll tell you a little fact about NBA Jam cheat codes. The sequel, NBA Jam Tournament Edition, during the arcade release of the game, unfortunately, this make the console versions of the game. There was hidden character codes you could play as Mortal Kombat characters, which by the way kind of feels fitting because a lot of the people that worked on NBA Jam, a lot of the developing team, a lot of the developers that worked on NBA Jam, also worked on Mortal Kombat.
Oh, you're right. I've heard about that. You're right. You're right. The arcade version of that game. Very true. All right.
Yeah,
Very cool, man.
and I'll tell you another little known fact about the arcade version of NBA Jam. Even though officially the official releases Jordan never appeared in NBA Jam, they actually did make versions. They made a version with Jordan and Shaq, and there is one person that's known to have that arcade unit, a fellow by the name of Shaquille O'Neal. So there's a possibility if you been lucky enough somehow you knew Shaquille O'Neal, you got to play one of the most elusive versions of NBA Jam that we would have all liked to have seen in the '90s. That was the one. That was the one drawback. One of the greatest basketball teams of the '90s was missing two of the biggest stars of the '90s.
Yeah, it's true. That is definitely very true, man. And yeah, so as we're rolling along here, the Knicks, hey, definitely have to be very positive with what we've seen going down there right now. Relatively healthy. I like the fact they get a couple extra days for Julius Randle to kind of rebound and get a little bit more healthy. On the opposite side, it does also give Jimmy Butler a couple extra days to help that ankle out. That ankle looked real bad uh, in game one, and then he ended up toughing it out, but he obviously wasn't in there for game two. Dan, last week when we had Dave on, his prediction was Knicks in six. What are you thinking so far?
I just have a feeling it's gonna be Knicks in six. I just have a feeling this is gonna be not. This is gonna be an edge of my seat series. This whole series. I just
Yeah, I feel the
I
same
just
way
have
actually. Yeah, Knicks in six is what I was thinking too. I think Dave's dead on. So yeah, I definitely think that's a good prediction. You
yeah
can't go wrong with that.
yeah. But by the way, I have said like I've said with a lot of my teams when they win a championship. Of course I'll go to the parade if we win this whole thing. I also have to say if that happens, since you're an Knicks fan and we're all gonna want to take it aside to the parade, will if we win the championship, we're gonna have to recruit somebody to come with us. Maybe someone may not have interest in, but the film the content for the parade of us at the parade.
Definitely, definitely. We'll
And
make
of course,
sure that we got somebody else there.
yeah, exactly. And also, as with every time one of my teams wins, the after parade we get gathering at Donovan's Woodside.
Absolutely, absolutely. Donovan, we will be packing out Donovan's after the parade there. No doubt about that, man. As
Yep,
yeah, we'll
that's
keep
true.
yeah. What are you saying?
And also, if also another word of advice: please don't mess with anyone's car if the Knicks win a championship. Don't mess with anyone's car.
Yeah, we don't need to be like Philly.
Yeah, exactly. All right, it's bad enough repairs are expensive. Why put the burden on somebody like that? I wouldn't want that done to me.
Very true, man. Very true. And as we keep rolling along here right now, we got a bunch of reactions to what the Jets and the Giants did. Uh, during this draft week, obviously they both had you know the guys they picked in the draft. The Jets had a pretty crazy week with Aaron Rodgers' trade finally going down, him getting introduced. He's been making the rounds at the Garden as well. Actually, before we continue on, let's just see that real quick. Have you seen these pictures, Dan? How great is Aaron Rodgers right here? Let me bring this in here. It's been cracking me up so much seeing this guy on with the Knicks. There's Rodgers and Sauce Gardner at the Knick game last night. You gotta love that. I mean, look at these two guys. They're sitting next to Jessica Alba, and Sauce Gardner is so young. He didn't even know who Jessica Alba was. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy. Me, I would have thought that was a big deal. Dark Angel was one of the shows I watched back. That was one of the shows I've watched. Like that's literally where I know Jessica Alba for the first time was a TV show called Dark Angel.
You're right. I remember that too. And then I also wanted to show this one because this one was pretty cool at the Garden Game 6. Aaron Rodgers sitting right there, a bunch of his teammates, Alan Lazard, Brees Hall, a couple of the guys, and there they are at the Garden for Game 6 Rangers there. So he's been to 2 Knick games, he's been to 2 Ranger games. Definitely very cool seeing that. But as we um, roll along here, what was your instant reaction to the draft, Dan. I know the Giants ended up taking a cornerback at number 4. Was there anything that you were happy about with this Giants draft, or was it mostly just okay? I'm glad they got some kids here. Now let's see what they can do.
It was kind of like that. Like we got some nice step pieces. I feel like in this draft. Now let's see what we can do. No, we got to one up what we did last year, without a doubt. I expect
Yeah,
at least I expect at least NFC Championship game next year.
yeah. Well, you should. Just like us Rangers fans came into this year with high hopes because of what our team did last year, specifically in the playoffs too. How could a Giant fan come into this season and not have big pie in the sky dreams like that.
Yeah,
This team you have every reason to believe could get to the NFC title game.
yeah, yeah. By the way, if one or both teams get to the Super Bowl next year, I think in a way Las Vegas might be a perfect location because in Las Vegas they happen to have a hotel that's New York themed.
That's
See,
true. That's
and,
true.
and, and, by, and by the way, if there's an old New York Super Bowl, that's where the fan gathering should take place at the New York Hotel. So that would be a
That's
perfect
true.
place for fan gatherings.
Have you ever been to
So
Vegas?
I haven't been to Vegas when I was like very little. Like my parents went and they brought me like I don't know, but I was like very little, so I have no memories of it. Like literally no memories of it. I kind of have like I was like 3 years old and they took me with them. So they went and there's like pictures of me. I've seen pictures of like 3 years old me at this hotel in this circus theme hotel when I was 3 years old. But there's literally no memories of it.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I
Yes. I mean,
so, so
you were very young.
yeah, so I officially treat it as I've never went to Las Vegas because I can't remember it.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. That's like me saying that I've seen the Mets win a World Series. Where yeah, I was alive, but I was 10 days old when they won the World Series. So I
Yeah.
can't count that.
Also, I do have some, I guess, a souvenir that my dad must have bought. I don't know. So you know how sometimes, like after like each day, casinos replace their playing cards. They sell them
Yeah.
as souvenirs, right? For the casino. I
Mm-hmm.
got a set of playing cards from the Dunes.
Wow.
You know what that's like to have a set of playing cards from the Dunes, a casino that no
That's
longer exists.
that's true. That's true. That's like ancient
I,
history right there.
I ended up with this somehow. One time, my mom was just set up on my father, and I have this somewhere put away because this is kind of a neat thing that my father must have bought as a souvenir, and I have this in
Wow.
in
Very
my
cool, man.
possession. So I got a pretty cool thing, pretty cool thing I got. Thanks, Dad.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome, man. Got that little
Yeah,
keepsake right there. And
yeah, yes.
yeah.
That's pretty cool, but yeah, yeah. So I officially don't treat it as I've been to Vegas, but they one of these days I gotta head out to Vegas. There's
Well,
there's a couple of there's a couple of things in Vegas I do want to visit. By the way, I'm intrigued by that. There's a couple of museums that seem pretty cool in that area. Of course, also they do have a NASCAR venue there. They do have two races on the Cup Series schedule every year. So it's pretty cool. So
and they're
and then
gonna have a
plus they
baseball team there pretty soon too.
yeah. So there's a good chance I could eventually see the Mets on the road in Vegas.
That's true.
I think that may be a bit party overload for the Seven Line Army. I wonder how the Seven Line Army is going to handle that party because trust me, those guys, the Seven Line Army, especially at their away game outings, I've attended some of their outings. Like I've sat with them at some of their outings. They know how to party.
Oh
As
yeah.
I can tell you, the Seven Line Army knows how to party. Let's put it this way, and they
On
really carry. Yeah, at opening day, you were there. You saw it. Even Steve Cohen hung out with them. Like he recognized how great their enthusiasm is on the. They bring it on the. They really bring it when they show up, especially even on the road. And they're just a fun bunch. I sat with them at Game 3 of the 2015 World Series, by the way.
Wow. Yeah, the seven line definitely is a they have a lot of passion behind them.
Yeah, exactly. They are great. They remind me of the footage I've seen at. I like watching travel videos, and I've seen some travel videos in Japan where they've showed baseball games, and I saw how like the visiting team sometimes have a little a huge cheering section, visiting team at all these
Mm-hmm.
Japanese baseball games. I know it's kind of reminded me of the Seven Line Army.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true, man. Yeah.
So I kind of want. I'm eager to see what Senga thinks of the Seven Line Army because I feel like maybe he's probably looked at that and it kind of reminds him a little bit at home there the cheering section, visiting team having the cheering section like that. Kind
Yeah,
I feel
he
like
definitely loves it, man, because I agree with you. That's the type of thing that makes him feel at home. And even I got a chance to briefly meet Senga at the end of spring training, and he couldn't have been nicer. So that he definitely loves the fan interaction, loves seeing the passion from us Mets fans and the seven line army. So definitely, no doubt about it. I think that'll pump Senga up.
yep, and hopefully he'll be doing a good job in him helping with the recruitment of one Shohei Ohtani
Exactly, and let's keep our
because
fingers crossed that he's going to be a Met next year.
yeah, because
But
we would love to have you here, Shohei. Please
we
come
will.
to Queens. Don't disappoint us like LeBron James disappointed our Knicks a couple of years ago. Come
Yeah.
to Queens.
Yeah.
We'll pick you up at Kennedy Airport if we need to.
Exactly. Exactly. And with the Mets, as everything continues to look like shit for the Mets, we'll get back to them in 1 second because we definitely have some things to complain about with the Mets right now, as they currently trail Game 2 of this doubleheader with the Tigers in Detroit, 6-1. Francisco Lindor lined out to center field for the second out of the eighth inning. So doesn't seem like a rally's coming too soon. But just to wrap up on this Jets and Giants draft week thing real quick, I did want to point out everybody is going to point to the two top picks in the draft. The Jets picking at 15, getting Will McDonald, the edge rusher. The Giants picking the cornerback, whose name I forget right now, at number 24, which is a big move for them too. But that's what everybody's going to talk about. There are two guys that they picked in the second round who, Dan, don't forget these guys because they're going to end up being big time players for the Jets and the Giants. This is my prediction, and I'm not going out on a limb here. I think this makes a lot of sense. Jets and the Giants picked the two top centers in the draft. The Jets got Titman, Titman, at the uh, uh, in the 43rd pick. They ended up picking him at. That's a really, really big pick by them. And the Giants ended up getting JMS at number 57 in that second round. Both of those centers, I'm telling you right now, are going to be really good players. Keep your eyes on those guys because at some point, now the Giants already have their anchor on the offensive line. You got Andrew Thomas. You got a whole bunch of guys out there that you can really count on. Now you stick JMS right there in the middle, he's going to be just a galvanizing force for that Giants offensive line. And I feel the same thing with Titman on the Jets. It's going to be the offensive line winning those trench battles are such a big part of football. And mark my words, Dan, those two guys are going to end up being big pieces of the Jets and the Giants' future on those offensive lines.
Yep, exactly. Those are going to be some real big pieces. I'm eager to see how this season pans out. I'm I'm, I'm hoping it doesn't go through a season. Well, hopefully it's not an agonizing winter, but God forbid we have an agonizing baseball season. I don't want to go into an agonizing winter as well.
Yeah, you got that right, man. You got that right. So, yeah, we'll close that book. But, yeah, let's just, continue with the Mets here for a couple of minutes, man. I mean, I don't know what the heck is going on. The offense has performed well at times, and they've been terrible at times. It's like all or nothing. It kind of reminds me of the Rangers in that playoff series. The Mets had only been shut out. I forget the number was last year. I think it was like 6 or 7 times. They've already been shut out 5 times this year. And um, if you want to flip that, okay, the offense still is doing pretty good even with that. Their starting pitching ERA so far this season is five. Well, and that's coming into today. And after what Joey Lucchesi and Max Scherzer both did, that number went up a lot. So it was 5.25 coming into today. It's higher than that now. Third worst in the major leagues coming into the day. Dan, what do you think right now from what you've seen out of our Mets?
Oh, it's just horrible. I just feel like the pitching struggle has gotten us this time. All right. I mean, I don't know. I think even with DeGrom's injury, I feel like that was a tough one. Him losing one of the best pitchers of baseball that time. All right. I just feel like more times than not, he was like money, and that kind of was a trickle down effect on our starting rotation. Also, I feel like the today Max Scherzer, like I said, him not having all those all that time off he had, not he essentially was on the mound without having any really rehab starts, any facing live batters since that suspension, and I think that threw off his timing or something. Also, I feel like maybe I expect Verlander to have an easier time after going a bit of a while without pitching to tomorrow, since at least he was able to get like a rehab outing and in. So maybe he's not as cold as Scherzer was today. I feel like,
Yeah,
and
that
that's
that makes a
unfortunate
lot
for
of
the thing
sense.
for that suspension. And fuck you, Phil Cuzzy. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, yeah, because you're right. Fuck you, Phil Cuzzy. I agree with that. I second that motion, Dan, of fuck Phil Cuzzy because he really screwed the Mets. The Mets without Scherzer have been hamstrung for these last 10 games now. They've had to run guys out there like Budo and Lucchesi and all these AAA pitchers they had as depth guys, who I guess it's good they had laying around, and they did get one pretty good start out of Lucchesi last week. But other than that, the Mets just have replacement guys in right now because they've been without. I mean, so far this season, Verlander's been out, Scherzer's been out, Carrasco's been out. Like, what else do they need for to happen in this rotation? The only guy that has consistently gone out there every time they've asked him to is Kodai Senga, pretty much, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it also, I guess, Singa, I guess I feel like he's still getting a little bit to an adjustment period, but I feel like once he's gotten a little bit adjusted, because he only had not only did he have to get adjusted to MLB, he had to get adjusted to this pitch clock. And
Yeah,
I feel this pitch clock also maybe sometimes hurting our pitching. Like there's one that you can say there's one good thing about the pitch clock to pace a game, but I feel like this pitch clock might not be a good idea for pitchers just because I feel like it's going to cause a lot more pitchers to get hurt, and I don't want to see anyone get hurt like that. So I think maybe Rob Manfred maybe needs to add some time onto the pitch clock next year because I just feel like this is going to hurt pitchers in the long run. There's going to be a lot more pitchers needing Tommy John surgery in the long run because of this pitch clock. I feel like.
yeah, I'm with you, man. I think there's definitely going to be an uptick in pitcher injuries because of this, and I think you might be really onto something too. A lot of people just say, "Oh, get rid of the pitch clock," whatever, this and that. Um, there are benefits to the pitch clock, but I agree with you. Maybe instead of just scrapping it or getting rid of it, add a couple of seconds on. There's no reason that it has to be a hard 15 seconds or a hard 20 seconds, and there's no wiggle room. Maybe add a couple of seconds on. You're still speeding
Yeah,
up the game. You're
yeah,
still
yeah,
keeping these guys on the clock, right?
yeah. I feel 30 seconds is the perfect amount of seconds for a pitch clock. That's just my opinion. 30 seconds is I think feel like it's a happy medium. They
Yeah.
they need to they need to experiment with that in the I don't know. I guess the Atlantic League they experiment with all these weird things. Like I heard this pitch runner rule. I haven't seen this stuff that they're experimenting that I heard that they're adding to this year in action yet because I didn't attend an Atlantic League game yet to get to see it in action yet. But I'll I'll probably get a look at that. I know last year, of course, I got to see the pitching clock demonstrated heavily because they were already using it in the minor leagues. So I saw that in a couple of Brooklyn Cyclones games.
Hmm.
I've seen the pitch clock worked out. I also feel like the next wave of pitchers that have pitched in the minors, I feel they're going to be more comfortable. I feel like they're going to be more comfortable with the pitch clock because they're more they've gotten more used to it, and I feel this is going to also affect scouting in the future.
Yeah.
This is going to affect the pitchers they're going to want to look at that they're going to want to sign up with this pitch clock because they're going to look for pitchers that could handle this pitch clock very well that work at a certain pace. I feel it's going to be it's going to add a new wrinkle into what scouts look for in pitchers.
Yeah, it's true. That's true, man. I completely agree. The benefit of having a pitcher that is a quick worker and that you could depend on to get the ball to get rid of the ball in a fast manner. That's going to end up being something that really can I don't know if it's going to like take a middling prospect and push him all the way to the top of the first round or something like that. But that could be something that gets that gets a pitcher over the hump that might not have, you know, gotten a look in the first place. Like you mentioned, maybe there's a fast working pitcher in the Atlantic League or something like that that they could take a look at, or somebody that just excels at getting rid of the ball and getting outs too, because that means a hell of a lot too. And speaking
Yeah,
of the Atlantic League
exactly.
too, yeah. I'm sorry, you gonna say?
I was gonna say also speaking of that, I might I have some friends at the Cyclones that I'm gonna contact. Maybe I want because I would love to see if maybe we could get maybe a scout or something on our show to maybe get. I really want to pick the brain of a scout from their perspective of how this pitch clock affects what they're looking for.
We'll definitely have to look into that. That's a great idea. I love that idea actually. And so and actually, before we move on from the Mets, let's keep rolling along. The Mets are on a a part of their schedule right now where they're playing Detroit. They're already about to lose the series. They lost 2 out of 3 last week to the Nationals. Then obviously they lost 2 out of 3 to the Braves. The Braves are a good team now, so you can't be too mad about that. They're Once they drop this game to the Tigers tonight, which I have no faith they're going to come back and win, they're going to lose this series now to the Tigers. So they're going to have to try to come out tomorrow and take the rubber or take a game to avoid the sweep. Then after that, the next 9 games the Mets have are 3 at home against Colorado, and then 6 on the road, 3 in Cincinnati, and and then 4 in Washington. So the Mets have a chance right now to really make up some, room on their schedule and beat up on some bad teams, but they're not doing it. They're already not doing it. They've already lost 4 out of 5 games that they've played against 2 of the worst teams in the league in the Nationals and the Tigers. So if we're going to see the Mets do anything, Dan, they're going to have to wake up during this stretch, right?
Yeah, exactly. They really have to. They really need to wake up the bats. I don't know what I'm gonna have to do. What kind of? I might have to rethink the rum I give Jabu, as I said.
Yeah, maybe
I'm,
he's not
I'm,
a big fan of Malibu rum. Maybe switch to a little spiced or something else like that.
exactly. I'm gonna have to look into maybe some different rum for Jabu and hopefully hopefully no one drinks that rum. That's all I gotta tell you. No one at home no one takes the booze rum. It's a bad luck.
Oh, right now it looks like Billy Epler drank a lot of Jabu's rum. So let's uh let's keep our hopes that the Mets end up finding a way to straighten this thing out and appease Jabu. Um, but on the other side of town, though, things aren't going too great either, as the Yankees just had to put Aaron Judge on the DL. Harrison Bader just came off, so this list might, or he's about to come off. So this list I have right here might be a bit outdated, but this just goes to show you all of the injury problems the Yankees have dealt with this year, as we see. Look at all these names, man. Aaron Judge, Harrison Bader, Luis Severino, Josh Donaldson, Carlos Verdone, Jonathan Loizaga, uh, Ben, I forget how you say that guy's last name, Giancarlo Stanton, Tommy Canley, Lou Trevino, Frankie Montas, Scott Effris, and Luis Gill. That is a long list of injured players, right?
Oh my God, it, it I don't root for anything like bad like this to happen, but hey, that it looks weird seeing that happen to the Yankees. But from a Mets fans, I gotta tell you guys, Yankee fans, especially some of you Yankee fans that only know the Yankees being in contention every year, this stuff actually does happen in baseball, and you've just never seen it happen before. So it's happened, and this might be the first time you've seen it with the Yankees, but it does happen, and maybe you got into a little bit comfortable seeing seeing all those playoff contentions and stuff, but this shit does happen, and unfortunately, you got to see it. And I don't wish this on anybody. I hate seeing players get hurt. Regardless of what team they play for, regardless of how I feel about them, because it's a struggle. It not only is it, not only does it affect their teams, of course, but also just the battle to come back from these injuries, and not just athletes. People like you and me get hurt. All the work, all the rehab work. I see it happen with my mother. I've seen it happen with friends and relatives when they get hurt. All that, the work that you got to put in, the exhausting work that you got to pull in just to get back your health to where you were, where your body was before an injury. It's not anything I wish on anyone.
It's true. It's true, man. You're 100% right about that. And the Yankees are absolutely devastated by injuries right now. They're running Clark Schmidt out there tonight against the Guardians in Cleveland. They faced Shane Bieber. Right now, it's the top of the eighth inning, tied 2-2. Shane Bieber pitched a good game. They actually got decent performance out of Clark Schmidt. So you got to give the Yankees credit for that, for hanging in with one of the best pitchers in baseball. That is Bieber, who went out there 7 innings, 2 runs today. But 2-2, so they lost an excruciating game the other night as Domingo Herman pitched a gem into the ninth inning, carried a shutout. The Yankees had a 2-0 lead. I would go on to lose that game 3-2. A very un-Yankee like loss there, as they also know. I mean, hey, they're dealing with life, in a post, Jeter world as we know. It's also a post Mariano Rivera world, because even after Rivera, they also had Chapman, who was a very good closer for a few years after that. But now with Clay Holmes and a bunch of these guys, undefined roles in the Yankees bullpen, anything's kind of up for grabs, right?
Yeah, it's like this is the first time I've seen in a while that the Yankees look human.
Yep.
To put it this way, it's the first time I've seen the Yankees look human, because I actually can tell you, I know I know people who were not, and I have more respect for the Yankee fans that were actually Yankee fans for a while. They weren't just bandwagoners. It's a little bit hard to kind of classify that with people that were just born knowing the whole Yankees winning all their life. But there are some people my age that may remember their first experience with the Yankees not doing so good, and they even had to deal with certain circumstances like Don Manley even retiring 1 year before the Yankees won the World Series.
It's a good point. That's a good point, man. Older Yankee fans have seen this before. The younger Yankee fans haven't. So, but don't count the Yankees out. I still think that the Yankees are going to be a playoff team at the end of the day, just like the Mets. They just got to, this is the early stages of the season, so they just got to figure things out and get back on the right page. But yeah, I think that's just about going to do it for us today, Dan. Before we get out of here, do you have anything you'd like to plug for yourself?
Sure, my Twitter page, Bobo103 NYC, Instagram, Bobo718DK. Also, do check out my YouTube and check out the little promo I did for Best Team in the House. I decided to go in a little of a funny direction. By the way, did you pick up what movie reference I kind of made in that little video?
Yes, I did. I forget what it was though. I remember I knew exactly what.
I used a song that was used in that scene in Silence of the Lambs when Buffalo Bill was doing that dance. When I made that video, I was going for creepiness. Like I wanted to give the video just such a creepy vibe. I wanted to give it like a creepy vibe that, make it look like there's some creepy shit going on there when me and you bribe people into hitting like and subscribe on our show. So I just came up with something really creepy, and I thought I got to use footage of me just like not show my face and me, and have the lights off and yell out like and subscribe, and you can go home. And that music just fit the mood perfectly. That music fit the mood perfectly. That song.
It did. It did. Very, very funny, man. We'll have to post that on the description of this video too, so you know what we're talking about. So we'll definitely include that. Yeah. So I think that's just about it for us today. So